For me, as an old guy, it's really fun to see younger travelers and the way they go about it. And I'm super happy to hear him say the number doesn't really count. It's more the experience, and you take your time. You will get there eventually, but I don't see the point, honestly, in rushing it and being fast.
This is the Radio Vagabond.
Meet my guests in this episode. Boris Kester from the Netherlands.
If you want to compete, why don't you do sports? You do a 100-meter sprint, and whoever arrives first is the winner. But travel is not about competition.
And Gustav Rosted from Denmark.
I had to find something else, and it was kind of an identity crisis for me, because football had been my life since I was 4 years old. And then I started to travel, and I found out that this is what I want to do. Like, this is the next step for me.
Both of them are really inspiring, even though they're so different. So, welcome to another interesting conversation from the Extraordinary Travel Festival in Yerevan, Armenia. My name is Palle Bo, and this is the Radio Vagabond, episode 239.
Good afternoon.
Can I help you?
Yes, my name is Bond.
Radio Vagabond.
This episode is brought to you in part by Hotels25.com. Whenever you need a hotel anywhere in the world, go to Hotels25.com. That would get you the best price. Hotels25.com searches a bunch of the biggest hotel sites in one simple search. Hotels25.com. Since both Gus and I are from Denmark, we could have done this in Danish, but we'll do this in English.
Yes, so I'm Boris Kester from the Netherlands. I tried to study some Danish, but I gave up because it looks familiar to Dutch, but when people start talking, it's like, what the hell are you saying? So I'm sorry about that. And you have the same thing with Dutch, I think. So
it's funny. I can actually manage to get some meaning out when I read Dutch, but speaking it, no. And I've had so many Americans say, "Oh, you're from Denmark, so you speak Dutch?" I said, "No." But it's close, right? No, not really.
Even better, they ask, "Where are you from?" I'm from Holland, and they said, "Oh, you mean from Copenhagen?" Yes. Yeah. No, anyway. So
I've also had some say, "Oh, I haven't really been to Denmark. I've only been to Amsterdam Airport."
Exactly. Well,
but then again, there are many places in the U.S. that most people in Europe can't place on a map. So, yeah.
Boris Kester embarked on countless adventures around the world, and he's developed a habit of picking the least obvious path and loves the challenge that comes with it. He believes that following his heart brings him the best travel experiences and encounters. He inspires us travelers through his travel stories and pictures on his blog, traveladventures.org, and he's the author of a book, The Long Road to Cullaville. Here he recounts some of the most memorable adventures on his way to reaching his goal of visiting all 193 UN nations in the world. Boris started traveling at a very young age.
So yes, I've been a traveler since I was 5 months old. My parents put me in a cradle, took me on a train trip to Greece, which is like a 2.5 day trip from Netherlands, and they were avid travelers. So they always took me and later on my sister on travels, and it was kind of inevitable when I grew up that I would start traveling by myself, and at a very young age I already started counting the countries I had been to. So I was writing it down in a diary, like, this is country number 20, and I was not even 10 years old. I was already drawing flags in my book. So I always made an effort. I always made sure that I would travel to countries I had not been to before, just out of curiosity. And then much later on, in 2008, I had a really nasty breakup with, believe it or not, a Danish girl, and then yeah.
And you didn't learn to speak Danish.
That's when I tried, and I realized that her English is like perfect, and there's very little added value of speaking Danish. But anyway. I had already been to 117 countries, and that's when I decided, you know what, I would go for all of them. So that's when I decided to go for 183.
So you were at 117 when you made the decision, and then you've been chasing them.
Yes, so just to make clear, 193 means all UN countries, and I completed in 2017.
And you wrote a book about your journey.
And exactly, and then I wrote a book about it because I travel in a pretty wild way. So I don't believe in a sense that some people travel very fast and they are happy with one day here, one day there, and I really try to delve into countries, and which is why it took a long time to complete. And also I lived some really crazy adventures. I mean, I wrote a book about it because I thought it would be a shame not to. And when one of my friends finished reading it, he goes like, he called me and he said like, I can't believe you're still alive because you all the crazy shit you did, you should be dead. Well, I'm not. So yeah, well, it's not my whole life story, but it's part of it.
The other guest in this episode is Gustav Rosted. This tall, super blonde guy is a 30-year-old Danish traveler who's visited more than 180 countries so far. He's the man behind the popular YouTube channel Gus1TheGo, with more than 281,000 subscribers and 73 million views as of now in December 22. He was a promising professional football player, and he did play for the national team, but not the Danish. We'll get back to that. But he had to stop his football career because of some injuries before it got started for real, which sent Gus into kind of a midlife crisis in his early 20s. What to do now? He needed another passion project, and that ended up being travel.
I am Danish, I would say. I grew up in Denmark and I feel 100% Danish. But I have played for the Faroese national team against Denmark, which was very weird for me. Because when I hear the national song from Denmark,
That's your song.
it touches my heart. Yeah, so that was a very strange experience. Yeah,
Okay.
that was a very weird feeling.
But why did you play for the Faroe team?
I grew up, so my grandfather is Faroese, and yeah, we have like very close connections to the Faroe Islands, and I've been there more than 20 times. As Boris said, he traveled a lot as a kid, and I did also, but it was always to Faroe Islands or Norway. So I was super excited when I went to Mallorca for the first time when I was 7 years old. That was a big thing for me.
Oh, yeah. It's not cold.
Yeah, exactly. So I haven't really traveled. I traveled a lot before I was 18, but always the same slightly boring destinations, if you can put it that way.
Yeah. But you just turned 30 just a few days ago,
Yeah.
so you're one of the very young travelers and very, very accomplished. When did it start becoming extreme for you?
So I stopped playing professional football when I was around 20 years old. I had too many injuries. I had operations in my ankles, so I had to find something else, and it was kind of an identity crisis for me because I didn't know what.
It was a midlife crisis at 20.
Yeah, exactly. I was not feeling well at that time because football had been my life since I was 4 years old. So that was a big change, you can put it that way. And then I started to travel, and I found out, okay, my life had always been so scheduled. I did the same thing every day. I knew exactly what to do, and with traveling I could surf when I wanted. I could do what I want when I wanted. So I quickly found out that this is what I want to do. Like, this is the next step for me.
And I'm sure that a lot of young listeners are thinking, but how is that possible? Some people take a gap year, and you took a gap year that turned into 10.
Yeah. So in the beginning I traveled on a very low budget. I always tried to find ways I could get online income.
Yeah.
And I also, in the very beginning, I worked with, can you say, like troubled kids or kids who couldn't stay with their parents.
Yeah.
It was very hard. I've seen some very crazy stuff at these places, more crazy than when I've been traveling. So I'm used to seeing like some pretty crazy stuff, and yeah, it gave me some bravery, I guess, to go out in the world. And yeah.
And your creative outlet, that's your YouTube channel?
Yeah, I'm a YouTuber, full-time YouTuber, and I do Facebook also, Instagram. So I'm one of the lucky ones who travel full-time. And
I just checked your numbers. It's 273,000 subscribers right now, and you've done 622 videos, so very productive.
Yeah, my life is... I made a lot of videos in a short time. I only did YouTube for 4 years. So, yeah, I guess it's pretty good.
How long time do you spend doing one video?
So I do different type of videos. Some are easier than the other ones, but usually I would say like 10-15 hours on one video. Yeah. So I don't sleep too much usually because I want to see a country. So I'm out in the daytime and then I choose in the night to edit.
You're getting closer to the 193 UN nations.
Yeah, so it's actually not so important for me. The important thing is to tell some interesting stories around the world, and for me it's more the journey than the destination, if you can put it that way.
But you do have a number.
I do have a number, yes. I've been to 180 countries. And I take one country at a time, and I revisit countries. I just drove around Turkey before coming here, 5,000 kilometers.
Yeah. And you're trying to do an interview in every country.
Yeah, I do ask people in each country which country they like and which country they don't like, and it's very, very interesting. I learned so much about relationships between countries. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and you're one of those people that I've spoken to a couple of times, but we met for the first time 2 days ago.
That's right. Yeah, it's very nice to meet you, Palle.
This is the Radio Vagabond podcast.
After the episode last week with Charles Wheely, I had a listener make this comment on Facebook. Sure, this person has been to all these countries, but has he really experienced it? Or just flown in and out of the airport and maybe stayed one night just to check off the boxes and say he's been there? That's not my kind of travel at all, but each his own. I would much rather stay in a place for weeks at a time and get a feel for a place. This person hadn't actually listened to the episode, just seen my post about it. But I have to say, for Charles and for all the guests I have in this mini-series, it's exactly all about experiencing the beauty of a country and learn about the culture and the way of life. But it's a common misconception that it's all about ticking off a box and with only just leaving the airport. And sure, there are some people who see the world that way, but it's my experience that it's in the 1% of country counters. Here's Boris about that topic.
I had the honor to travel with Gus earlier this year in Azerbaijan, and for me as an old guy, it's really fun to see younger travelers and the way they go about it, and I'm super happy to hear him say the number doesn't really count. It's more the experience, and you take your time. You will get there eventually, but I don't see the point, honestly, in rushing it and being fast. Because if you want to compete, why don't you do sports? You do a 100-meter sprint, and whoever arrives first is the winner. That's fair enough, but travel is not about competition. So I'm really happy to see that even the younger Instagram video, whatever YouTube generation, which I'm just an old-fashioned photographer guy, writing books, but
you still have film in your camera?
No, it's a long no, but it's not that bad. But no, I'm really seriously happy to hear that, and of course I know that we talked before, but it's good to see that also younger travelers take the time to, because we have a beautiful planet.
We could talk about so many different destinations, and we could keep exactly. And but I'd like to. I normally hate to get the question, what's your favorite country? So I'm not going to ask you that. I would like to know, is there a country that surprised you, that's underrated, that surprised you in a positive way? Maybe you didn't expect anything from it, and then it just blew you away.
Not just the country, but the region that seriously surprised me and completely exceeded my expectations was the South Pacific. We all have an image like about South America is like this, Africa is like that, and Asia. Even if you've never been there, you have somehow that South America is Machu Picchu, is Rio, is blah blah blah, and Africa is animals, is maybe mountains or tribes, and Asia is temples, and this is like super generalizing. But South Pacific, at least in Europe, at least for me, not. You never hear anyone going there, and my stupid idea was like it's all white beaches and palm trees and atolls and that's it. And I'm not much of a beach person. I thought after 2 days I will be bored out of my skull. But then I traveled around for 3 months, and it was fantastic. I mean, it's an absolutely fantastic region, and it completely blew me away because there's history, there's old temples, there's nature, and there's very active volcanoes. You can do fantastic diving. So there's so many things that, and even in one country between islands, they might speak different languages. People might be eating differently. So the variety is fantastic, and this is completely what I did not expect.
No. And I had, having grown up in Denmark and in the western part of Europe, the eastern half of Europe, I'm not going to say Eastern Europe because that will offend a lot of the countries, but the eastern half of Europe is something that it never really appealed to me. I thought, nah, this is going to be not that great food, a lot of concrete buildings, and yeah. And then I started my journey there, and it just, wow, there were so many amazing places. And a couple of years ago, I did Albania and Belarus, and those countries blew me away because it surprised me so much, whereas I had very high expectations about Croatia, and it was nice, but it was no more than I expected. I've been back to Croatia this year, and I can understand why people go there. It's an amazing place. But Albania and Belarus, wow.
Absolutely, yeah, I totally agree with especially Belarus.
So I would probably say Tanzania. That was one of my first African countries, and I spent almost a year in Tanzania.
Whoa!
Yeah. So that made me love Africa, and that's also the reason why I've spent such a long time in the continent. Been to every country in Africa.
You have?
Yeah. So that was very surprising for me. I loved everything about Tanzania, and I even have 2 kids that I sponsor, 2 small girls, and yeah, that's important for me to like leave a positive impact on the world, not just with my videos. I try not to talk bad about countries. It's important to differentiate travel experiences with.
We'll be right back. Here in December, you'll get 8 episodes with conversations from the Extraordinary Travel Festival in Armenia, 2 episodes every week. And then you'll still get a flashback episode every Friday, and the one coming up this week is recorded in a car in North Carolina. Here I was house sitting in High Point for Davina. She's also a traveler and a travel writer, and she wanted to get away for a few weeks and was actually also house sitting. And as she let me borrow her car, she asked me to drive her to her house sit in Floyd, a bit north of High Point.
I am treating this house sit as a writing retreat. I won't have phone service, and it's more about the outdoor activities in Floyd. Apparently there's a lot of hiking and whitewater rafting and outdoor stuff that you can do there. But I am just planning on getting a lot of work done, and the place where I'm staying is a beautiful cabin on 11 acres. It has a hot tub, it has a labyrinth, and miles of shady gravel road that runs parallel to the Blue Ridge Parkway. So I'm a runner, and I'm really looking forward to just my runs during the day, in the morning, and a lot of riding all day, and then soaking in that hot tub at night.
Well, that sounds good.
Too bad you have to house sit my place. No hot tub.
Well, it's all about the change of scenery, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So what you're saying is your house sit is better than mine?
Exactly. Pretty much.
Make sure you don't miss that episode, Flashback Friday this week from North Carolina.
This is the Radio Vagabond podcast.
Let's get back to Boris and Gus.
So when you travel, do you have any kind of rules that you have to do something in a country when you go there? You got the interviews that you try to do an interview in every country, but did you have something, Boris?
I don't really have any concrete musts. I just travel freely, and it really depends on the country. So if you're asking for length of stay, because that might be a question, as I said before, I totally don't believe in setting one toe across the border and then turning around and walking away. But otherwise, I just... the way I travel is I try not to see any video or images from a country. So I want to go there as empty as possible, because I want to be surprised and I want to be in awe. And I've been to places where people next to me were saying, "Oh, this really looks like the picture I saw before." That sounds kind of tragic that you compare reality to the picture you saw before you even left home. So
that's when people want to have a picture with them in it, and that is the background.
Yes.
Because if you don't post it on Facebook, you haven't been there. That's what counts as a visit.
We are both on Nomad Mania. It's one of the biggest sites where you can record your travels and everything, and they have a verification process. So when you're near completing all countries, and especially when you have completed all countries, they require you to show proof of your visits. And they ask me like, "Oh, you can just send us selfies," and I'm like, I never take selfies. I hate selfies. I'm sorry, but I hate selfies. So and actually, for some countries I had a hard time proving I had been there, because if you don't get a stamp, and if you just do couch surfing or whatever, it is not even very easy to prove. And they sometimes accept secondary proof, like if you take pictures of whatever the country, but of course that's tricky, because you might steal those pictures from someone else, or you might Photoshop yourself in it, or so it sounds like, for instance, I had Switzerland. I was like, Switzerland. I've been so many times to Switzerland, but how can I prove it?
Start making video.
Yeah, it's easy for you.
Myself, yeah.
It's easy for you.
Yeah. It's hard to Photoshop me in the videos unless you're really good. It's possible, but
green screen.
Yeah, green screen. Yeah.
I remember there was an Instagrammer at some point, and he did that on purpose, saying, "Let's see how many people I can fool," and then he pretended to be a crazy trip, but he photoshopped himself in a very bad way. He was pretty good at Photoshop, but he would do it so bad that the shading was wrong, and just to see when are people gonna pick up that I'm doing this as a joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, so your question, I don't have, the only thing I do is I always take my camera, so I always take lots of pictures. We're here at EDF, which is a gathering of travelers all around the world, and yesterday I was talking to a guy who never takes a camera, and I was listening to him like, I just seriously cannot imagine traveling without a camera. And when I was thinking of it, it would actually probably give a feeling of freedom, because you don't have to carry your camera, because I'm an old-fashioned, so I carry like this big camera with lenses and everything, so it's like a whole separate backpack with which is heavy. And I was like, wait a minute, if I would travel without that backpack, without all the gear and everything, that would be actually you just walk around in the city without bothering about the light or the situation or the cropping or the people or whatever. You just do whatever you want without this urge to find the perfect shot or the...
that would be like me traveling without microphones. That would be weird.
Unthinkable, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do your videos? I notice you have a GoPro, but is that GoPro and your iPhone?
I have GoPro, I have drone, I have camera, I have phone. Like electronics is maybe 70% of what I carry when I travel. So I wish I had the same feeling like Boris. I would like to try without, but it's such an important part for me. And yeah, I think it's fun also when I look back on videos and old photos and you remember the memories. I'm not much into materialistic things. I think it's much more fun to have some good memories.
But you're able to stay up to date with your videos, that it's not something that you recorded a long time ago?
It is. I'm always behind. Yeah. I'm always behind.
It's believe me, it's going to get worse.
Like, for example, I was in Iraq I've been there 3 times. I've been there for 3 months in total, and I made like 40 videos from there. But I left the country like a long time before, and I was still posting Iraq videos because it's so hard to like stay somewhere. You also want to talk, you want to socialize, you also have to do the editing. So it's hard to find a balance, and many people cannot find a balance.
Yeah, I have the thing, Gustav. When I'm editing, I'm reliving the journey. So it's really nice to have that. And the reason I actually started doing my podcast was because I wanted to create memories for myself. That when I'm 95, I can relive my journey just by putting it on again.
Yeah, and if you have kids or something, they can take your hard drives and see your whole life, basically.
Gus did a video about the extraordinary travel festival that you can watch on his YouTube channel, Gus1TheGo. You should really do that if you want to learn more about this event and meet some of the people here. You might even be able to spot me in the video. The link is in the episode notes and on theradiovagabond.com. And as mentioned, Boris wrote a book called The Long Road To Cullaville. It's a funny title, and during his talk at the festival, he told us that he came up with that title in a shower in Colombia.
Well, yes, because the one of the hard things of writing a book is finding a good title, and I had like probably 50 different titles. I finally picked this one because Cullaville is the village where I crossed the border into my last country, which was Ireland. Yeah, so that's the title. I am trying to get it translated into Danish.
Oh, really?
Yes. Working on that. Actually, just a few days ago, I sent a few sample chapters to a Danish editor or publisher, and so yeah, who knows? But for now, it's only available in Dutch and English.
I will put a link to where you can get the book in the episode notes. And Gus, you're Gus1TheGo.
Yeah, so it's actually Gus1TheGo, but I thought it would be smart to say Gus1TheGo. Might confuse some people actually, but you can say it how you want.
And it's with the number.
It's with the number, yeah. It's very confusing, but I accept it either way you say it.
Yes. And not only YouTube, you're also on
Facebook. Yeah, I have like 200-something thousand followers on Facebook also. Yeah.
TikTok.
I just started. I saw a lot of young people who use it, so I go where the attention goes. Quote.
And I realized that it's not only dancing teenagers. So Boris, you need to get on TikTok.
Okay, well, I'll try to do that.
A lot of people just associate TikTok with dances and stuff, but you can actually do so many different things. And yeah.
I haven't done that many, but I've done a few. But I'm finally on TikTok as well.
Yeah, that's cool. That was fun.
The next episode from Armenia that I'll drop on Sunday will be with another fellow Dane, Mette Ehlers Mikkelsen, and half Polish, half Kenyan, Slavik Muturi. Mette is the most traveled Danish woman, and she's got her own twist in the way she travels. Most of the time, she travels with her children.
So not just traveling with children, not even just traveling to every country in the world, but trying to achieve this goal with children, actively traveling with small children.
A few weeks ago, we had Gunnar Garfos on the podcast, who's one of the 3 people who has visited every country in the world twice. Slavik is another one with that super rare accomplishment. In fact, he visited all UN nations at least twice. He told me that he's been to more than 150 countries 3 times.
Well, 3 years, about 150 countries I've been to at least 3 times. But of course, there are some countries I've been to 80 or 120 times.
Don't miss that episode with Slavik and Mette. Just click follow or subscribe in your favorite podcast app, and I'll make sure that you'll get it in time for your Sunday morning coffee.
Are you ever going to stop traveling?
I started.
Clever answer.
I'm biologically speaking probably closer to stopping traveling than Gus is, but I simply cannot imagine. No, because for me, travel. I mean, I've been to every country, and actually, I had a few friends saying when I visited my last country, like, oh, so now you can stay home finally. We can see you, and I said, well, I've got some news for you, but. Having been to every country doesn't at all mean that you've seen. I mean, my curiosity for the world is and it even it even gets worse because we're especially now on EPS on travel communities on the internet.
EPS, that's every passport stamp.
Yeah, sorry, but there's several communities and basically it's about sharing destinations, and sometimes like almost every day I see places which I sometimes never heard of, and I'm like, oh my God, that sounds really fantastic. That sounds beautiful. That sounds something that I want to see. And it gets added to a list which only gets longer instead of shorter. So
yeah, I think the more I travel, the longer the list gets.
There's a saying about knowledge, right? The more you know, the more you realize how little you know. And the same goes for travel. The more you travel, the more you realize, like, wow, I haven't seen a thing. And there's... even in my own country, Holland, it's a small country. It's comparable to Denmark, and there's some islands I haven't been to. There's quite a few places I've never seen. So you could do this for every country, and even then, I mean, visiting a country in summer or winter can also be like a huge difference. I mean, you go to Switzerland in January or in July, it's a different country. So. No, I don't think it would take. I don't know, me getting an accident or somehow being physically unable to walk or to move. Maybe yes, but so no. For now, no.
And Gus, you're so young, so it's so hard to predict the future. But could you see yourself settling down with family and kids and stuff like that, and that would make a break in your travels?
I would say I'm a very day-to-day person. I don't think too much about the future. I'm very much in the moment, and I think that's very important because I have, like, there was this Danish YouTuber who died very young, one of my friends, and yeah, just put things into perspective. I've also been in like near-death experiences in Africa, and yeah, so I'm very much day-to-day. But when I think of this, like, life of having kids and family, it doesn't appeal too much to me right now. I just like to travel, and I want to go new places and meet a lot of people around the world. Yeah, that's how I feel right now. But it might change in a few years. Who knows?
And just to finish this up in a positive note, you said having been in danger and so on. Can we agree that the world is not as a dangerous place like most people think?
Yeah, it was not to make it sound like that, but let's say like 99% of the time it's an amazing planet, and there are so many good stories to tell.
Yeah, I agree, and actually this is the basic theme of my book, because this is one of the main questions people ask, like, are you fucking out of your mind to go to Iraq, Afghanistan and Somalia, and yes, I've been there, and yes, sometimes situations are like can be a little bit shady or tricky, but then looking back, which is what I also do in my book, looking back, the real danger always came in completely different situations and places where I never expected to be in danger. So it's in the end, it sounds very simple, but in the end, it's all about being lucky or not. I lost 4 friends. They died in circumstances which were unnecessary, so that all of them were travelers, but they ended up dying in situations which were not dangerous at all. So they were just really unlucky. I mean, it was just the wrong time, wrong place, and it's as simple as that.
That's it for this episode, supported in part by Hotels25.com. Remember to use it next time you're looking for a place to stay. I know that so many people are just going straight to Booking.com, Hotels.com, Agoda, or one of the other big sites out there. But why not search all of them, plus about 15 other sites, in one simple search? You can do that with Hotels25, and sometimes you'll get a better price on exactly the same room on a search site that you probably never even heard of. Hotels25.com. It's best price guaranteed.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been absolutely a pleasure talking to you.
Same to you, Palo.
Same here. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah.
See you in North Carolina on Friday and back in Armenia on Sunday. My name is Palo. See ya.
Radio Vagabond. Produced by RadioGuru.co.uk.